You lie to yourself at times, now you're falling apart. Soon giving in this time, 'cause we're falling apart.
Hello there, coming to you from the attic. This is a special report for JW Watch, the show that keeps a close eye on all things JW, offering Jehovah's Witnesses a more objective viewpoint on current developments that the governing body almost certainly doesn't want them to know about. One thing that we do all know about by now, hopefully, is that there have been some new appointments to the governing body. So this has been announced on jw.org, and here to discuss this development with me is friend of the channel, Arthur Webber. Hello, Arthur.
Hello, Lloyd, and hello all of our viewers on the Lloyd Evans channel. It's nice to be back. I really missed it.
It's great to have you with us. Is there a bit of a lag, by the way?
Yeah, there was a few seconds of lag between your audio and video.
Okay. Well, let me put you on main screen and you can maybe explain a little bit more to the viewers while I sort out my camera.
So as probably some of you have noticed, there was a breaking news feature on the JW.org website last week where the governing body announced that there are now 10 brothers on the body, with 2 new additions that have been appointed as of early this year. It's 2 brothers who have made it through to the helpers list early last year in spring, and they rocketed up to the highest possible rank, obviously because they are anointed brothers. So now we have 10 brothers on the governing body instead of 8 that we had last year. And we're very curious to tell you all about the background of these 2 new governing body members. Back to Lloyd.
You're a natural at this, Arthur. You really... so, yeah. Having just a few problems
and
there.
We're lagging again.
I'm lagging again. Right, okay, it's definitely a problem then. So you'll have to bear with me on this one, I'm afraid. What can you tell us about the names of these brothers, Arthur?
I have to check real quickly because I have a bit of a lapsus on the names. I guess it's Jeffrey Winter and brother Flegel something.
You sure?
1 second.
So it's Jeffrey Winder. And the name of the other appointee is, as you say, Flegel. I'm just trying to get the first name.
Greg, I guess.
Yeah, Gage Flegel.
Gage Flegel. Yeah, sorry.
Gage Flegel. So sorry about this, viewers. Yeah. I do have for you is a video. So we have some video footage. You've alluded, Arthur, to the fact that these appointees have kind of been fast-tracked somewhat, right up the ladder, right up the hierarchy.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. But in the meantime, I thought I would show you all a video so that we can see what these people look like. Interestingly, when the news first broke, I actually tweeted about the fact that similar to Kenneth Cook's appointment, these are appointees who we haven't really seen on our screens, certainly not on JW Broadcasting, unless you want to call the Gilead graduation JW Broadcasting. I don't count it. But whereas the likes of David Schaefer, Kenneth Lodine, Mark Newmair, William Malenfant, they're all kind of household names now,
Of course.
because
And I
they've
guess the
been
only
on.
reason that these brothers, William Malenfant, David Schaefer, Mark Newmair, aren't on the governing body is because they don't profess to be anointed.
But how do we know, though? How do we know that they don't profess to be anointed? Is there like a register somewhere where we can check whether they profess to be of the anointed?
If we could have a look on their S21, then we could probably know whether they are anointed or not. But since we don't, it's just a matter of speculation that they are not anointed. And the reason for that is that they have been only helpers for so long time.
Sure. Well, let's take a look at this video, so we can just again put names to the faces. So hang on a minute.
Jeffrey Winder,
So
who's a
let me
helper
just
to
pack
the...
that up.
Well, now our next speaker on the program is Brother Jeffrey Winder, who's a helper to the Personnel Committee. And Brother Winder is going to discuss with us this very interesting question: how close can you be?
How would you students answer this question? Do you feel closer to Jehovah now than you did before your Gilead training began? The answer is a resounding yes, isn't it? The potential for your relationship with Jehovah to deepen is endless. Well, that's just wonderful to contemplate, isn't it? Your success in your assignment is directly connected to the depth of your relationship with Jehovah.
So that was Jeffrey Winder.
Yes.
And he had some interesting things to say there, although not quite interesting enough for
To
me
make it to the final
feature
cut
them
of the
in
rebuttal.
my JW broadcasting, Gilead graduation rebuttal. To be completely honest, I found Kenneth Cook's talk, Jeffrey Winder's talk, and Gage Fliegel's, I've got to get used to that name. It sounds like a made-up Marvel character, doesn't it? And now Gage Fliegel enters the room. Yeah, I found all of those talks so boring that I didn't want to subject my audience to the talks, because there was nothing of real
Nothing
interest.
interesting, nothing thought-provoking about them.
No, it was just, to be honest, they were safe talks. You know, if I were a governing body member or helper, and I wanted to give a talk that was rebuttal proof, I would give those sorts of talks where you're just rehashing stuff in the Bible that's nothing new, nothing particularly profound. You're maybe trying to make, but yeah, they were safe talks, and there wasn't really anything for me to comment on. But I probably, hindsight, would have included these talks in my Gilead rebuttal if I'd known
that these two would be appointed as governing body members.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on Jeffrey Winder based on on his one talk that we have on jw.org?
Yes, he's just the typical Jehovah's Witness speaker. He was talking about our relationship with Jehovah, obviously encouraging the Gilead graduates to strengthen their relationship to Jehovah, to stay close to Jehovah in their assignments. It's a typical Gilead graduation talk. And obviously, Lloyd has lost a bit of his internet connection, apparently. So let me see some comments in the meantime, because I see the chat is really full with with comments.
All I want to know is when were those guys anointed, what year, etc. It says Hotitos.
We don't know that. We don't know actually when they were anointed.
This is what we were saying earlier. I mean, if some kind of page on jw.org telling us which of the helpers and which of, well, obviously all of the governing body members profess to be anointed, but it would be very, very interesting to know which of the helpers are anointed, and what, like you say, what year. But that's just information that no one is really privy to. There's no way of knowing, is there?
All we know is that they were appointed as helpers last year, because in March last year we noticed that the page on jw.org that lists all the governing body committees and helpers, that was updated with these names, together with Paul Gillies. Paul Gillies was added to the list as a helper to the coordinators committee last year in March, and that's when these two brothers were added as well.
Miss Winter says they're younger than me, and I was told people my age couldn't be anointed because the gates already closed on that, and the 144,000 had already been filled. So how are they anointed? Well, that's actually old light.
That was changed in the May 1st, 2007 Watchtower in the questions from readers article. So that's since when the number of partakers has been skyrocketing ever since.
Yeah, that's why the number of partakers has just gone up and up, because now everyone knows they're in with a shot.
We also know that Mark Sanders was born after 1935, when previously it was considered the end year of gathering the remnant.
Weren't they? Even Sammy Hurd. I think probably even Sammy Hurd was born after that.
No, Sam. Yeah, but he was. Yeah, he's 80 something. I don't remember exactly his age.
Big Boy the 8th says, well, instead of the governing body being 87.5% white, it's now 90% white. Good to see when it comes to diversity, the Watchtower is practicing what they preach.
Well, obviously Jehovah is handpicking these white guys.
He has a preference, doesn't he? It seems.
Yeah. But luckily we have
Sarah M says, evening, Lloyd. Go on.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this announcement. Also, in other news, who's been watching Everyone Else Burns on Channel 4? Absolutely hilarious. Unfortunately, we don't get Channel 4 in Romania, but Lloyd might have some input on this
Croatia,
one.
Yeah. I wanted to comment a little bit on what Jeffrey Winder was saying in that talk. Even just in that clip, it's interesting how he said your closeness, the success. That's it. The success of your assignment depends on your closeness to Jehovah. And as I've pointed out on previous rebuttals, what that's doing is it's essentially blaming Gilead graduates who don't have success in their assignment. It's saying, well, the problem's with you for not being close enough to Jehovah, So if I'm
which obviously translates to closeness to the organization, loyalty to the organization, doing as much as the organization wants them to do, and committing themselves more and more and more to doing their assignment, of course.
Now watch and have made it into the rebuttal, but that was an interesting comment from someone who we now know was being considered. This was October 1st. He was surely being considered.
No, it was September. It was the mid-September. The October 1st was the annual meeting.
So let's look at Gage Flegel. Again, I'm really going to have to try to keep a
Let's
straight
roll the
face
clip.
whenever I say that name. Okay, let's put it on the screen.
Is directly connected to the depth of your relationship with Jehovah.
The next brother who's going to give you some words of encouragement has a very intriguing theme. By an Anathoth. Brother Gage Flegel, who's a helper to the service committee, is going to develop this theme. Buy a field in Anathoth.
The year was 608 BCE. The prophet Jeremiah had already served nearly 40 years faithfully. And now he was confined in the courtyard of the guard in Jerusalem. Jerusalem's walls were being battered by the Babylonians. In less than a year, the entire city would be completely destroyed. But Jeremiah had to weather the storm. There was no way out. There was no place for him to go. He was under lockdown. Why did Jehovah ask Jeremiah to buy a field in Anathoth?
If Jeremiah was wearing a face mask.
Jeremiah already had complete faith that, yes, Jehovah's word would be restored. When 70 years had transpired, the Jews would return to their homeland. But now Jehovah reinforced Jeremiah's faith by giving something specific to think about. Jeremiah could imagine the time when buying and selling would again occur in Israel. Well, Jeremiah's faith in Jehovah later document of those returning from Babylonian exile. Jehovah's word always comes true.
So this is one of those again where, you know, watching it again, I'm thinking maybe there is a sushi there, because, you know, he's doubling down on the 607 date, and you know he's also with this biofield in whatever it is place. It's all to do with you know, you can take it to the bank that Armageddon's coming, you know. But it just didn't quite make the cut for me, because again, there's nothing unremarkable, there's nothing unusual about the organization pushing 607, you know.
Oh,
Are you with us, Arthur?
yeah. It's the thing is that I have to reset here something.
Okay. Seems that now Arthur is having technical. It's not just. Hopefully you all heard what I said there. But yeah, Gage Flegel there, you know, doubling down on the 607 date, which, you know, has been debunked time and time again. If Tibor were here being gracious, he'd be able to show a thumbnail to a video I've made on 607 if you're watching Jehovah's Witnesses. And, you know, in that I explain how we know that, you know, Jerusalem's temple wasn't destroyed in 607 BCE. There's multitudinous evidence to that effect. But Gage Flegel there doubling down on that year and using a verse about Jeremiah being required to purchase a field to effectively tell Gilead graduates that Armageddon is a certainty, and the whole point of the field purchase was to show that God's promises come true. Again, just not quite interesting enough for me to include it in a rebuttal or a sushi, so it didn't make the cut. But now I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't put it in. Obviously, if I'd known that these two individuals were going to be appointed to the governing body, I would have included it. So, you know, I'm going through the comments, and, you know, one or two of you have been commenting. There we go. Abraham White. Hello, everyone. Looking forward to Lloyd's take on this. So I do have a few thoughts. I've commented already on the fact that it's interesting that these are individuals who, like Ken Cook, who was previously the rookie on the governing body, the most newly appointed. Like Ken Cook, they've kind of been appointments out of the blue. They're names that we're not familiar with. They're names that we're not used to seeing on JW Broadcasting. And this would almost suggest, maybe we can bring Arthur back if his system is cooperating. Hello, Arthur.
Hopefully, yeah. Now you can. Now I'm back. I've switched
So,
cameras on now.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one having technical issues. You'll have to bear with us, everyone. This is after all an international live stream. I'm in Croatia, Arthur's in Romania, and most of you are in America, Canada, America, Canada, the UK, Australia, or Germany are the top 5 countries that watch this channel. So we're doing best with the technology we have. But yeah, I think it's interesting that these are appointments out of the blue. And Arthur, you alluded before to the fact that these are not just new appointments to the governing body, they're also relatively new appointments to the position of governing body helper.
Yeah, exactly. And probably, I suspect that they were appointed as helpers to the governing body committees because the governing body thought to appoint them as new members to the body itself. And of course, because of procedure, they had to become helpers first, and then become governing body helpers. But as the official news was reading, they are still longtime Bethelites. If I can,
yeah, these are governing body helpers who have been helpers for a matter of months.
Yeah. But several years
so
as
they've been fast tracked.
Yeah.
They've been fast tracked. They've essentially outmaneuvered again the likes of David Schaefer, Ken Flodine, William Malenfant, etc. Who, for all we know, that those individuals aren't professing to be of the anointed, but it could also be that there are existing well-known helpers that are professing to be of the anointed, and yet Gage Flegel and Jeffrey Winder have come out of absolutely nowhere almost, and are now full-fledged governing body members. It is a bit strange, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, but Jehovah's hand works in unforeseen ways,
In mysterious ways. Are you able to find, for some reason, my jw.org browser screen is not cooperating. Are you able to find us the announcement, Arthur? Maybe we could just read through it and find out a little bit more, because I know one of these individuals served on has served on the service committee, which is
Brother Flegel,
and another one
Brother Flegel was
hasn't.
on the service committee, and Brother Winder on the personnel committee.
Do you have the announcement in front of you by any chance?
No. I recalled from Jeff Jackson's introduction in the video.
Okay.
But let me.
I'm gonna scroll because I know I tweeted it.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find as well.
Two new members of the governing body. We are pleased to inform you, brothers, have been appointed to serve as members of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Brothers Gage Flegel. I'm really going to struggle to keep a straight face with that name. Brothers Gage Flegel. Both brothers are anointed Christians who have a long history of loyal service to Jehovah. But it's interesting they say a long history of loyal service to Jehovah, but not a long history of service as governing bodies. and Bethel service in 1991. Brother the opening body, but again, that will have been for a few months. Brother Jeffrey Winder began his full-time service in 1986 and Bethel service in 1990. Brother Winder has served as a helper to the personnel committee of the governing body. We thank our
Heavenly
for
Father
us to
Jehovah
share in
for
the
raising
work of
up
the
such.
governing body. We pray that Jehovah will richly bless brothers Flegel and Winder and their wives. So the wives get a mention towards the end there.
Well, you know, those brothers couldn't have taken up and been committed to their responsibilities if they didn't have those supportive wives. So these loyal sisters are absolutely
Mark Sanderson would argue
miraculous.
otherwise, I would suggest. The years are interesting. I mean, it's interesting that they've again been fast tracked. That they've spent months as helpers and they're already governing body members. Before that, they were guys who worked in perhaps senior positions in Bethel, but underneath the governing body help.
Yeah, they were probably some Bethel elders somewhere.
One thing that did stand out in the announcement. Go on.
Yeah, they started actually regularly pioneering in 89 and 91. I mean 86 and 89 respectively. So, and they they applied for Bethel service when they were very young, and they must have climbed the ladder in these 30 years or so.
I find those years interesting for another reason, and it's to do with the overlapping generations teaching. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, of course.
So when David Splain gave his infamous kind of white pointy stick,
yeah, he mentioned the year 1992.
He used as an illustration. Yeah.
Yeah, he mentioned the year 1992
he used as an illustration the fact that
Brother Franz passed away.
Or was it I thought it was 94.
No, 92, because he was talking about, he was using Fred Franz as a reference for the sake of argument.
For the sake of argument, exactly. But and both of these individuals have just about scraped in before 1992, at least in terms of Bethel service. One beginning Bethel service in 1990 and the other one beginning Bethel service in 1991, meaning that they can sort of lay claim to this idea of being in association in some way with Fred Franz.
But I really don't know whether they were already anointed back then.
Well, no one knows. No one knows.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing with the whole anointed nonsense, if you'll allow me to put it quite that way.
It's
supposed to be a deeply personal thing, isn't it? And no one's supposed to know when they started partaking. Yeah.
And there's also another question that came to my mind when I was reading this announcement back then, whether these two new members are part of the of this generation, or they are they don't any longer fit in that second part of the generation.
Yeah,
because obviously the current generation teaching says that certain anointed that become anointed in these recent times are no longer part of this generation because they don't don't meet the criteria to be part of the second part of the generation. For example, to have been anointed before Fred Franz passed away.
But I think if I'm going to be, I mean, I can't prove it. We'd have to interview the writers, but I think that's why they've gone to quite some pains to mention specific years. because all
Yeah.
they really needed to say was, these brothers have many years, have decades of Bethel service. That's all they really needed to say. But by mentioning the specific years, for me, that's kind of a nudge wink to the
Of
overlapping
course.
generations. David's plain teaching. We have Joseph Miller in the chat saying Cook didn't partake that I'm aware of before he went to Bethel. I seem to remember Joseph commenting on previous videos, and I think Joseph purports to be, if I'm being totally journalistically accurate, someone who knew Kenneth Cook personally. So yeah, again, it would be lovely to know exactly on what day or which memorial various governing body members started to partake or claim to be of the anointed. If you're wondering how you get to be of the anointed, I have a video on that as well, in which Stephen Lett explains that it's pretty much a case of you decide for yourself, you self-certify as someone who will rule as a king priest in heaven with Jesus. So yeah, I try not to read too much into that side of things, but it's clear that the organization is drafting in to breakneck speed, who have kind of come out of nowhere, and I'm kind of a bit perplexed as to why, given that they already had a fairly I'm
Lost you
glitching a
again,
little
Lloyd.
bit. You could kind of understand as well, body wanting to manage kind of the how can I put it, levels of resentment of their existing pool of governing body helpers by just letting them bed in a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because, for example, they could have waited for Sam Hurd to pass on. He's surely not got that much longer. Or Gerrit Loesch. I would suggest Sam Hurd or Gerrit Loesch will be, the two who next die of old age at least. I'm surprised that they've done this so quickly, and one possibility, it's just speculation. One possibility is that these are individuals who've been for specific skill sets or for specific knowledge that the governing body needs.
Yeah. Because they have, so
I
in
mean,
in recent
I think
years I've
someone
seen
commented. I
in
saw
recent
someone
years
comment
they
that
have
maybe they've got dirt on the governing body. keep your friends close and your enemies closer. It could be that we don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to say that in recent years they have in all the ranks they have been looking for brothers with certain professional skills, soft skills mainly,
Yeah.
to
Thank you
apply.
very much to Jared Murphy for your super chat. Buy the field, your title deed. Be no part of the world. Listen, obey, repeat. Do all you can. It's never enough. Make less money. Give us more. Take our word for it. The JW guarantee. Yes, Jared there referring to the buy a field in Anathoth talk that Gage Flegel gave at the 152nd Gilead graduation that was so dull that it didn't make my cut. Or the rebuttal was more or less the gist of the talk, that you need to act now as though everything is uncertainty. I think he even used the same verbiage as David Splain at one point in the. So thank you for that super chat, Jared. But yeah, it's. I mean, look, all I can, if people are interested in knowing my thoughts, I guess I've given them. It's fascinating to see how quickly these people have been fast-tracked in. One interesting statistic is that the governing body now has its first member who hasn't served on the service committee in the form of legal, because Jeffrey Winder served on, if I've got them the right way round, yes, sorry, Brother Flegel did work in the service committee.
Service committee and Brother
Jeffrey
Winder on the
Winder
personnel committee.
on the personnel committee. So that is actually significant, because, as I've said before on this channel, it seems that you need to have some kind of experience in the kind of with the skeletons in
In the closet, yeah.
on the service committee. Typically, if you're wanting to become a governing body member, number one, you need to be claiming to be of the anointed, and number two, ideally, statistically speaking, you need to have spent some time on the service committee, and
or the service the service department
or the service department, and it seems that Jeffrey Winder is the first or the only existing governing body member who has not done that. So again, whether he has specific skill sets aside from an ability to conceal on an industrial scale records of accused pedophiles remains to be seen. I will say, however, that they both do a bit of mileage ahead of them. And I would suggest that Gage Flegel in particular, I think of the two, he seems to be the most compelling speaker. I think that, and I've long said, as much as I dislike Mark Sanderson and dislike him more and more the more I hear him speak on matters such as blood transfusions, I at least find him a compelling speaker. And it seems that in Gage Flegel in particular, they've got someone else who can just lend a little bit more credibility. You could imagine how much fun we'd be having if they'd unearthed another Steve or another Anthony Morris. But to our knowledge,
they are unique, both of them.
Recruits are a little bit more believable as conduits of divine wisdom. Jared has commented again, I studied with a Bethelite raised in Jehovah's Witnesses. When I asked him what would happen if, hypothetically, one of the governing body was found out to be a pedophile, what would that mean? It was the first time I got pushback. Actually, you're not a million miles away from what has at least alleged to have occurred. If you look into some of the past members of the governing body, I forget the names of them now. I write about them in my book, but there were Brother Green. I'm not going to cite names because I don't want to get into legal trouble, but there were some governing body members in the past who resigned under fairly dubious circumstances, and the organization subsequently published kind of a disclaimer suggesting that it would not be untoward if it turned out that a governing body member had once engaged in that sort of conduct, or words to that effect. Let's just see. Yeah, do you notice any of the other comments, Arthur? I'm just trying to include a few before we wrap things up, given the technical issues we've been having.
Yeah, Judo BB says, I worked with Gage Flegel in the bindery many years ago and lived on the same floor in the 107 building. We were friends, and he was actually a really cool guy.
Yeah, he does look, like I say, kind of I mean, if I were to be offered the opportunity to sit down with a governing body member, I mean, obviously I'm going to choose Tony Morris because I find him a fascinating specimen and I can't get enough of the man. I consider myself his number one troll, and I would give body parts to be in a room with Tony Morris. But if it were to be kind of, you know, an opportunity to kind of have a respectful dialogue about ways in which the organization can reform, I could imagine having a conversation with someone like Gage Flegel. But we've not really heard their ideas yet. I mean, obviously their ideas are the same as the organization's ideas. That goes without saying. But having said that, you know, what we've seen on JW Broadcasting and in the video propaganda is that some governing body members seem to go above and beyond in pushing.
Yeah, and they have their own style in presenting the organization's ideas.
Yeah, they you know they'll go above and beyond occasionally in you know unnecessarily some of the more sinister elements of Jehovah's Witness ideology. Many thanks indeed to Raven Tree Frog for your very kind super chat. It feels strange to be accepting super chats given the poor quality on this. I'm afraid I'm having to do this from the attic for logistics because Ramacro is half an hour away from where I'm living, and I wanted to just jump on the live stream tonight, but both Arthur and myself have had technical problems, so we do appreciate you all bearing with us. The long and short of it is that there are two new governing body members, Gage Flegel and Jeff Durr. Both have been fast-tracked up the ladder, having served only months as governing body helpers. One, Jeffrey Winder, becomes the first, or the only existing governing body member, I should say, to not have served either on the service committee or the service department. And it will be interesting to see what reputations these men carve out for themselves in the months and years ahead.
Yes. We're looking forward to seeing them on future JW Broadcasting episodes.
Suffice to say, the moment they say anything interesting, and they didn't in the 152nd Gilead graduation, but the minute they say interesting, I'll try to be straight on it. But all that remains is to thank you, Arthur, for your insights. Arthur is a friend of the channel and a Watchtower researcher who keeps a very close tab on all things organizational and keeps his ear in terms of the chat among leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Arthur. Viewers, I hope you found today's live stream interesting. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel. Looked into the wrong camera for a moment. You can subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more. And as always, thank you for watching.